All right, at 6, I think we can,
Okay.
let's just go ahead.
Before roll call, I wanted to thank everybody for being here tonight, including those people who are attending remotely and those who are watching on Channel 14 or streaming live. As noted at the top of the agenda, the governor has issued an executive order in March that allows the commission members to participate remotely. Tonight, the commission member, Steve Becker, has called in. For those in attendance tonight, we've set up the room meeting with the CDC requirements and recommended distancing guidelines as per the executive order. The city has also made accommodations to provide comments from the public on the agenda items. With that, I'd like to call the meeting to order for this April 15th. And roll call.
Becker.
Here.
McMahon.
Here.
O'Flaherty.
Here.
Pena Graham.
Here.
Wright. Chair Maxwell.
Here.
5 present.
Obviously, there isn't anyone here that would like to address anything that is not on the agenda. So with that, we have,
Let's do the approval of the agenda first.
I'm sorry. Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by, seconded? Oh,
Second.
seconded by O'Flaherty.
Yep.
All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Thank you. Minutes from the last meeting? Any additions or deletions?
Move to accept the minutes as presented from the last meeting.
Moved by McMahon,
Second.
seconded by Pena Graham. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. Thank you. And with that, we'll go to the public hearing. We have on the agenda tonight, and I apologize, I have to get this in front of me. The city is proposing text amendments to Article 7.068, Chapter 23 of the Municipal Code Unified Development Ordinance regarding barbed wire fencing. The amendments will remove the requirement that barbed wire fencing be angled toward the interior of a property, allow barbed wire fencing in the general commercial and planned development commercial districts, and allow barbed wire fencing in the front yard of commercial and industrial districts in conjunction with certain uses. Per note, the current regulations only allow barbed wire atop a 6-foot-high fence. Staff report?
Yes, thank you. So as you summarized, Chair, the proposed amendments to the UDO regarding barbed wire fencing. So we have some current regulations regarding those. We have a few changes kind of grouped in 3 categories. Keep in mind that this is only barbed wire on top of a 6-foot-high chain link fence, so it's not all barbed wire. The first one is we currently require that if you have barbed wire fencing that it be angled inward towards a property. Typically the barbed wire usually is angled outward. That's more effective. So looking back, we not 100% sure, but think that standard had to relate to setbacks. So requiring a barbed wire to be angled inward towards a property, made sure that the barbed wire at 45 degree did not go over the property line. If the fence was at the property line, it was angled outward. There was potential that the barbed wire would go over the property line or the right of way and be off the property technically. So we assume that was probably the reason in the past, but for the most part, there's really no other reason. So we proposing language to allow angled inward or outward. If it is outward, that the fence has to be 2 feet off the property line to ensure that the barbed wire fence does not encroach over the property line. So we took care of that on that language. Taking somewhat of a survey around town since this issue came up, I'd say about 50-50 angled inward and outward. So I assume most of those predate the UDO. There certainly could have been some that were put up without a proper permit, but we do see kind of a mix out there of those. So we're suggesting language that would allow it angled at a 45-degree inward or outward, and then if it's angled outward, exterior of the property, that it just be 2 feet back from the property line. Second group amendment relates to allowing barbed wire fencing in the front yard, and that's in conjunction with certain uses. The current regulations do allow barbed wire in the side and rear yard in the industrial districts. All those. Those are currently allowed. We're proposing to allow these with certain uses in the front yard. In the general commercial district, the current language actually states that it can be approved in the side or rear yard with council approval with a report from the community development director. I couldn't find any records of the city council reviewing a barbed wire review in the past, so I'm not sure how much that actually came up. So uses, so we put together some uses where we found that they're probably going to potentially have a need to have some, particularly if they need a secure perimeter where they're going to need a barbed wire in the front yard. Those include electrical power substations and transformer stations. Those two uses currently do allow that right now. So communication facilities, publicly owned property, or a use requiring a secured entrance. So this came up somewhat with, we have a subcontractor for Facebook that's locating on Dietz Avenue that requires a secured vehicle entrance. They're required by that by Facebook. So they need a barbed wire fence on top around the perimeter being in the front yard. And there's certainly other uses potentially that would need that also. So the language proposed would allow barbed wire fencing in the front yard in the GC district, our industrial districts too, and PDC when associated with the uses I just went over, electrical power substations, a transformer station, any communications facility, public-owned property, or use requiring a secured entrance as determined by the city manager. So that have to have an administrative look at it to make sure it was actually in need. Now, going around the city, we do have some barbed wire fences in the front yard that are between the building and the street. We assume most of those predate the UDO, perhaps. Our Public Works facility does have that. We do see a need to allow that. This is not allowed in residential district. Barbed wire is not allowed at all currently in residential, and this changes, same thing, not allowed in residential. Finally, the allowing barbed wire fencing in the without council approval in the GC and PDC districts. Just to include those two, I don't anticipate many requests for that. We could have a use, we probably do have a couple cell tower sites that have probably a general commercial district that have their maintenance or building at the bottom with their equipment around there, and those are mostly usually secured. Makes sense. So some of those with barbed wire. So a few of those may be in the GC district. So, but again, I don't expect a lot of those in the GC. The typical retail and office just obviously don't have a need for that. Most of it's the time with something manufacturing, industrial with outdoor storage. They need a little better security. So that's the proposed amendments. It's detailed in Exhibit A of the exact language. I have a sample motion prepared in the report and recommend approval subject to or as indicated on Exhibit A that has the detailed language. Certainly open to any questions the commission members may have.
Seems fairly straightforward to me.
I'd had some slides that were in the packet, but just kind of showing different locations that have barbed wire that go angled inward towards the property or outward. Some of the front yard. And as you can see, even from the pictures, as you drive by or look, you have to take a close look to even figure what if they're in or angled inward or outward, some of those. So we don't see a big issue with allowing it outward, just to make sure that it stays on the property. So we don't see any issue with that.
Any questions?
Why do you make it if I want to angle it outward, why is it a full 2 feet setback? Why not?
Just because of the way you can see the angle of the barbed wire. As it angles outward, we want it to be 2 feet would be adequate, so that angled barbed wire does not go over the property line. Because you put the fence around the property line, that's going to angle.
Right.
It's going to go over. So we thought, talking to the chief building official, we thought 2 feet would be adequate to make sure that those were.
It seems like you could get by with 6 inches, couldn't you?
I think 2 feet would be, I think some of these are probably close to maybe a foot or so.
These are a foot of barbed wire going up?
You know,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 foot will be safe, will be good. And we checked a few other sites, the ones that are maybe have it already and are on the property line, they don't have to take it down or anything, they're just non-conforming. And continue, not gonna
So
take
what
any
brings this
fences
up
down.
now? Is it because of the Facebook subcontractor that wants?
That kind of initiated and just kind of looking at other properties too, other requests that are coming in,
Okay.
or some that were put up and then, not angled properly, so thought, well, let's just take a fresh look at this. The standard's been in place for some time, and looks like we've had some others doing it another way. What's the reasoning for the angled inward? Let's look at, what makes sense in the secured entrances and these other types of uses, so. But that kind of initiated, hey, let's take a look at this, and instead of them, trying to do a variance or something didn't seem to make sense, and
Okay,
let's look at the whole ordinance, all the language.
thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, would anybody like to read the sample motion?
Yeah, I'll do it. Based on the submitted petition and testimony presented, I move the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the text amendments to the Unified Development Ordinance regarding barbed wire fencing as indicated in Exhibit A of this report.
So moved by O'Flaherty, seconded?
Second. I second.
Seconded by Pena Graham. Roll call, please.
Becker?
Yes.
McMahon?
Yes.
O'Flaherty?
Yes.
Pena Graham?
Yes.
Wright? Chair Maxwell?
Yes. So
Motion approved.
Okay, any other staff reports?
Just briefly, next scheduled meeting is May 3rd. No hearings have been set, so some plan or plat comes up, we'll be canceling that. We'll send the notice out the Thursday before. After that, May 17th is the next meeting, and should have at least one public hearing. We got a few that are haven't officially submitted, but talking to us, so should have a meeting that on May 17th. The last council meeting, last Monday, they did approve on first and second reading the time extension for New Med Partners, the cannabis dispensary out at the Junction Shopping Center. So it was approved for another year to get their state license to July 1st, 2022. They spoke at a little bit at the council too. They're pretty confident they'll be able to get that license within that time. So a few things, just some store openings. Old Navy's looking to open this Wednesday at the old Barnes & Noble location on Sycamore Road. Also along nearby there, Harbor Freight Tools is going in the old Aldi, and they're looking to have a soft opening at the end of May with the official opening in mid-June. So that's good news on those retail front.
Good to know.
And Isaac Suites, which the commission did approve last year, that's the executive suites development by Pappas at Oakland Drive and Sycamore Road. They're about 3 to 4 weeks out from completing the project. That was 59 units in that structure.
Excellent.
That's all, thanks.
Okay. Any other comments, questions from anyone? Okay, with that, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll move to adjourn.
So moved by Mr. McMahon,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Becker. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. With that, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and have a wonderful evening.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Good night, all.
Good night, Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Be well.